Jake says, how has your study of consciousness affected your worldview and your priorities in life? Have you changed your priorities based
it's a
on...
huge question, and I'm not sure I have a good or interesting answer, at least.
I'll tell you what it helps me do. Is it helps me to like not take things so seriously, honestly. Like for me, realizing like, like I get these like really anxious feelings sometimes for no reason, but then that causes me to be like, oh, there must be something I should be anxious about right now.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
And I'm really good at finding stuff too.
Yeah.
But when I get those feelings, as I've gotten older, I realize, and through understanding, because I was raised like super religious, to like now I'm not really religious at all. And definitely, I'm still a little woo-woo-y, I guess, but not nearly as much as what I was, back in my early 20s. But because of understanding, the scientific viewpoint from, looking at consciousness or looking at free will, for me, it just helps me to not take things as seriously. It doesn't mean that, I'm going to live on the street. I think that's true. And ignore all my priorities.
Yeah.
But I actually appreciate having your book Consciousness totally helped me again, like just take that serious level and take it down a notch.
Well, and I think that's partly the experience of awe. And that is, that was the only thing I could really think of an answer to that question. I'm not a religious person, haven't ever been a religious person, but I'm very careful about using this word, but I always have considered myself to be very spiritual. And part of that, living with that spiritual component is, a lot of that comes to me actually from science and from this experience of awe. So yes, I think it does. It definitely gives me that. I don't know. Is that answering the question?
It's fascinating because I don't think of myself as even a spiritual person. If anything, I'm more religious than I am spiritual because I actually, all I really mean by that is like I appreciate ritual.
Well, talk about a word that people use a zillion different ways. We may not even all three of us be using the word the same way. Yeah, but go ahead.
I think the way you use the word is like to mean numinous or something like that.
Actually, it's funny. I was thinking about this recently because of all these conversations I'm having, and also some months ago, there's a philosopher, Thomas Metzinger, who's wonderful, who's recently become a friend, and he wrote a piece that he sent to me that I actually posted on my website that I think is great. And I'm forgetting the title of it, but it's something to do with intellectual honesty, spirituality, and intellectual honesty.
Okay.
And
we'll
he
put a link
gives
to that in the show notes.
It's fantastic. And he gives this definition. I actually have it in my notes if you want the actual wording. But he says he thinks of spirituality, or he declares that spirituality is not the opposite of science. Oh shoot, I'm not going to get it right. Sorry.
No,
he declares that spirituality is the opposite of religion. That's what he says. And he describes it kind of in a scientific context and an ethical context, but really a search for truth. That at its core, it's a search for truth. Not belief, but for truth. And he gives a beautiful explanation for how he arrives at this. But I realized myself as I was thinking, what do I mean by spiritual? And what do I think of when I value spirituality? And for me, it's similar to what he's talking about, but I kind of came up with this description of a state of staring into the unknown while seeking truth and experiencing an intimate connection to the universe at large. It's like these three components of facing the unknown, looking for truth, and there's a component of feeling connected, that we are in fact a part of this universe, whatever is going on at a fundamental level, and so experiencing that connection within the context of not having all the answers and wondering.
I think the thing that I appreciate about religion is the ritual. Some of my closest friends are like pastors and like people I grew up with, and
ritual is very important for children, especially. I think actually, but
I think to a great extent we've lost quite a bit of ritual, especially as we've commoditized.
I agree.
And turned everything. We've turned love into a transaction. Even diamonds are forever, and we've commodified essentially everything, and in doing so, we've lost a sense of community.
Yeah.
We've
deep connection to each other.
We've replaced our, if we just had an earthquake here recently, and like if your house were to fall down, we've commoditized that, right? Because like, well, I write a check every month to an insurance company and they replace it. Whereas before it was like, your house fell down, well, the community comes together and helps you rebuild the house.
I'm not sure that was better.
I'm not saying it's...
I know your point. I totally get your point. I'm teasing you.
Yeah. But yeah, no, there was more meaning for community. Speaking of, like, we were talking about dreams.
Right.
We were talking about dreams. I had this dream last night. Tell me if this is a term that I made up or if like I tweezed this from somewhere.
I think Freud would say you want to have sex with your father.
Post-industrial angst.
Yes.
Have you ever heard?
I've never heard that term, but
I woke up and
it sounds like an essay title.
I woke up and it was post-industrial teenage angst because the dream I was having was about, I don't even know if it was my brother or sister, but they were like wrapped up in Twitter and like in my I don't know why this popped up, but I woke up thinking post-industrial teenage angst. But then I was like, it doesn't have to be limited to teenagers, like post-industrial angst. But I think that's what what I'm thinking of is post-industrial angst adds to the point of like why we are losing this community.
Yeah. Well, Chris Ryan has a book coming out called Civilized to Death. And the thesis of that is like we've become so civilized that we're no longer civilized. Like it's a continuum, right?
Yeah.
And there's probably balance. Like, of course, I don't want to go back to hunter-gatherers and everyone fearing for their life around every corner.
No, but we've lost something.
We definitely
along
have.
the way. And I think you're right that religion has always provided things that are extremely important, and this is something I think a lot about because I didn't grow up religious, and it's I'm mostly focused on the ways in which it divides people just given my work. But all of these things that it's provided, I think, are extremely important, and I'm more and more aware of this as I have kids and raising them in the world. Ritual, rites of passage, celebrations, all of those things are incredibly important and are moments for us to be connected. And to share our lives with each other, and it's hard to find.
Yeah,
I find that I don't have the same beliefs as a lot of my religious friends, but I have very similar values.
Yeah,
and it makes me actually want to attend like a church service.
Yeah,
not because I want to I want to affirm their beliefs, but because I feel like there is a sense of community that not even just sense of community. I feel like I have a good sense of community. I lack the communal rituals in life. This is the most ritual thing that I have in my life is every Tuesday we come in here and we record
but I was
going
to say, even just that like meeting every Sunday or whatever day it is, like having a weekly intention-based place to meet and reconnect with what you care about, to recenter yourself, to talk about ethical questions, to talk about big things you're facing in your life, to have someone wise stand up and speak to everyone and get everyone kind of on the same page about remembering what our values are. And
it's why religion works so well. It's for all those reasons. It's like you've got a group of people who are genuinely looking out for each other's interests, and you have the same beliefs, and you have those rituals. And I mean, if I had a better answer to religion, I'd give it. But like, when it comes
I think we do have to get there, though.
I
think there's a way to have all of this without.
Yeah, I don't think we're there yet, but we're kind of getting there.
I think the problem, Ryan, is when the beliefs trump the values, and so like where it's like, I believe gay people shouldn't get married. And
I like this community more than I like my values, so
it's
almost like
and so there are times where we don't want our beliefs to trample our values. I think the beliefs are the values are the destination and the beliefs are the path to get there. Ryan and I have different beliefs. We have different political beliefs. We have different religious beliefs. But I think we just use different paths to get to the same destination ultimately.